from a technical, political standpoint, I understand why no one is jumping in and just aiding the fight. But does it feel weird to anyone that everyone's like, "Good luck, guys.
No,
We're rooting for you."
it doesn't feel weird at all because
Nope.
the possibility of
No, I know.
escalation is not worth it.
I know. It just seems so shallow. I agree. I'm not for war. It just seems.
It turns out that, you have to have political considerations as opposed to just emotional responses
I know.
to things in the real world. It sucks.
I know.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
I just find it so weird where they're like, "Please help us," and we're like, "Thumbs up."
I mean, we are. Let's be clear.
Yeah, no, we are. Yeah,
Let's be clear. The Javelin missile is fucking up the Russian army, and they have us to thank for those. So
yeah.
it is what it is. Welcome to the shitty real world of nuclear politics.
I hate the real world. I
Yep.
go back to my fantasy.
Has not
card
the
game
last
land.
2 years been enough to make you hate that real world?
6?
Yeah,
6 years?
yeah, 6 years.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And I mean, we have the overwhelming popularity of joining NATO now in the Nordics is pretty fun.
It is hilarious. It's like, you know what? We would like to be in NATO, please, says Finland and Sweden.
Yeah. Boy, weird end game we got going on there. Okay, let me test out. I got a hard cap at 12, unfortunately. Although I don't really know that we have an hour worth of conversation. Could be wrong. Maybe you're going to surprise me, but
I mean, Colin and I can make it an hour if you'd like to. I think you know that. I'm going to take a sip of coffee, but I'm ready to start the recording whenever you are.
You can start the recording. Let me just tip this out.
I'm on my second whiskey sour, so I'm more than ready.
I like whiskey
Nice.
sours, and I never make them. But I never make them. Like if I go out somewhere, and it's like on like not that I've been out anywhere in a while, but it's like a special or a deal. I'm always like, yeah, whiskey sour. Never think to make it or go out of my way to order it. But they're always
The
so
last time I had sour, sort of the mixer, was back when I was like 20, and I used to drink Midori sour as Kool-Aid crack.
Oh yeah,
Ew.
we called them lemon lime otter pops. Because if you chill them, that's what they taste like. All right, you guys ready? 179, right?
Let me start. Yeah, 179. Let me start the recording. And stream is good.
All right, here we go. Ready?
Yup.
Hello and welcome to Circling the Cup, San Jose Sharks podcast, episode number 179. And woo! You smell that, guys? We stink. Boy, Sharks not looking good. We're going to talk about that on this podcast. I'm Alex. Here with me, as always, is the Honorable Ben. What's up, Ben?
Rest in peace, James Reimer. Rest in peace.
And, of course, live via Sweden, potential new NATO friend, Colin. What's up, Colin? How you doing over there?
Well, the ice is melting, so thick mud for tanks to get stuck in.
No, I thought you were saying the ice is melting in your cold Sharks depressed heart, Colin, because they did not have a good week, and that's kind of a funny thing to say because they only really had 2 games this week. But oof, boy, a lot kind of going on, none of it good. So Reimer goes down. Yikes! Not only was Reimer sort of one of the bright spots so far this season for us, and pretty much single-handedly at this point with everyone else injured, keeping the team sort of alive, but he was also really valuable trade bait because flip him, get a pick, get something else, and him getting hurt doesn't feel good. And this is where I get a little lost here, guys. Not because I don't understand, but because it breaks my brain a little bit. But the Sharks decide to sort of backfill that by bringing back in Alex Staylock, who, long recovery from, heart condition and all of that stuff. But that guy has had a very difficult road to the NHL and through the NHL. But, Savchenko's right there, man. And also, Staylock is a body. He's free. Yes, I get it. Future considerations is what the Sharks got him for. But then they decide to start him. I don't know what's going on. So here's the question for you guys. Are they tanking? I'm getting real confused. Everyone's injured. I think when we talk about changing the organization around. We've talked a lot about the coaches, and I don't know what their training situation is like at all, but woof. This has just been an injury-plagued season. I don't know. Okay, let's go Reimer first here. Reimer, how did that make you feel inside, Ben?
Well, I mean, when he first kind of exited the game, we didn't really know what had happened, right? So
Right.
I was already kind of like, oh God. There's an argument online about, is this because he played 13 games in a row or whatever?
Yeah.
But then, the org was not particularly clear on what kind of injury it was, and we were left to realize that it was a really bad injury by the Staylock pickup, right? The Staylock pickup was
Right.
sort of the pointer that, oh God, there goes that trade ship. So initially it was like, whatever. I mean, guys pull muscles all the time, and then, oh God, oh no, oh God, oh no was sort of how I felt from there.
Yeah,
Uh,
and keep in mind too, like Hill's been out, and
yeah,
it also became very clear this week that Hill doesn't really look like he's ready to come
yeah,
back, even though they're kind of trying to trot him out in practices. He's not able to make it through an entire practice. He's definitely not there. So not to say that Hill has been having the most remarkable season, let alone the season we were hoping he might have coming in, but to not have Reimer and then to also not have Hill ready to return, even
yep.
though he was sort of, people were sort of chatting about March, not good in net for the Sharks.
Yeah, I mean, I think mainly this again shows that it is going to show, as last night's game showed, that actually a competent goalie was a huge difference between this year's Sharks and last year's Sharks, and things are going to just get worse now.
I know. What's really weird to me is, the irony of this happening sort of right after the organization gives their, BS PR of we're not in a rebuild, which, yeah, you are. You just can't actively do it because of the contracts you have and, because you need to fill the tank, but, which, you're also not doing. But to have Reimer then go down, now it's like, let's not even, for me, I never thought we should be going for a playoff spot at this point. We've talked about this ad nauseum. I know you guys agree. We should be looking at picks where we can get picks. We should be looking at getting some of the other players who need the experience, even if it's not a great experience, having them not get any experience and the Sharks not do anything. That's not of value to anyone.
It's even worse. After Reimer went down, after they traded for Staylock, Couture and Bogner both said we're a runaway from being close to a playoff spot.
Which is ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous in two ways, right? First of all, it's like, to get close to a playoff spot, what the fuck does that achieve, right? They're not even willing to... It's the weirdest platitude, right? It's like, either be a man and say we could go on a run and make a playoff spot, or don't say anything. But don't say we're one run away from being close to a playoff spot. What does that even mean? Congratulations, you failed, but you didn't fail that bad?
Well, here's the weird thing about that too is, again, a lot of this sort of posturing has to do with the Sharks trying to make sure that they have butts in the seats, because right now, all of a sudden, Arizona playing in a 5,000, capacity arena next year seems like a pretty good deal for the Sharks if the Sharks wanted to do something like that. But the funny thing is, if the Sharks make the playoffs this season, there's going to be no more extra butts in the seats. No one is confused or faked out by the situation. And if you think they're bad now, and if they can't be healthy, I mean, let's be real. If you had told me before that the Sharks are still in it, but they were healthy, I would have said, yeah, sure, probably. Are they going to do anything? No, but could they make it? Yeah, they could if things go right. But man, these guys are snake bitten on two fronts. They're snake bitten on the injury front and have been all season. I mean, it's ridiculous when you look at how many players are out and how many players have been out throughout the entire season. And then on top of it, those players that are in are snake bitten. You know what I mean? Like you're still getting basically all your goals from two or three guys. So what is the point at this phase of even, pretending, or at least, again, I get it. They're trying to fill seats, but I don't think you're filling any more seats with this web.
The results are what the results are, right?
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want, but you're basically just calling the fan base a bunch of mouth-breathing idiots, which I mean, to be fair, every NHL fan base has a significant percentage of mouth-breathing idiots, but come on.
Well, see,
I
you know.
just loved.
Oh, go ahead, Colin.
I loved how in this last game they were just showing fans hanging their heads and like looking devastated with no commentary.
Oh yeah, you know the thing that one of the things that got me with the Reimer situation and Staylock coming in was, well, first of all, again, I understand that the Sharks needed a body at the very least, because they can't, they're not going to, they just wouldn't be able to fill out the AHL and all that stuff. They need to put someone there, and I get it, and he was free. I don't love the fact that it's Staylock, not because I have anything personal against Staylock at all, but because this organization has a habit of constantly looking back into the past for, whatever answers it needs, even for a stopgap. But what rubbed me wrong was Staylock, who, he's been playing in the minors, but, whatever. He immediately gets the start in Nashville. And I mean, first of all, the Sharks in front of him look like garbage. So I will say that. But he also did not look good at all.
No.
And the funny thing is, I saw a lot of Sharks fans online kind of defending that as well. If you bring up a young goalie too fast, blah, blah, blah. And to an extent, I agree. However, let's look at Sawchenko's situation specifically, because it's not like they plucked him from the AHL suddenly and threw him into a bad situation. This is hey, Reimer goes down. Even Reimer's like, slap on the back, bud. This is your chance. And the Sharks go,
psych.
Let's start this guy who hasn't been up in the NHL forever, who's, recently recovered from, a pretty serious condition, who's trying to rehabilitate himself. Let's put him in front of you and see how that feels. Because to me, again, do you want to rush a goaltender up? Yeah, not particularly, but we've all been in a job, right? And no one likes to be leapfrogged. And especially when you look at a professional athlete, entire day to day is the struggle to get any minute and do the most with that minute. So that's like, to me, if I were Sawchenko, that's a slap in the face right there. And I'm not saying that I think the Sharks believe that he's the future either, because I don't. But man, like, you look at the coaching and you look at the decision making with this organization right now, and I don't get it. If there aren't organizational changes in this offseason, which there won't be, I'm going to be absolutely furious and confused. Colin, what do you make of this goaltending snafu?
I mean, I was really happy to see Staylock go in, because I always giggle anytime he makes a save and he slides all the way to the sideboards.
Yeah,
like
I like it when he wanders out of the crease just to wherever. That's my favorite Staylock moment.
Yeah, he just goes on a cruise, and like at some point in the game, he goes on one of his sliding cruises to the side, and you see every single Shark piling into the crease trying to stop a puck, and we still get scored on.
Well, what's funny about that too is that was his big thing when we had him the first time around, was his athleticism to move from post to post. The problem was the brakes. Hitting the brakes appropriately by the time he gets to that other post.
Yeah, and I mean, the second I knew he was going in, I'm like, I was telling my wife, I was like, this is going to be so good. He's just going to go sliding out of the goal like every play. And the thing that I love most is hearing Randy and Hetty be like, well, we have so much injuries on our defense. It's like, are you kidding me? Why don't you look at the defenders who you're talking up this whole season? How many of them are injured? One. There's one injured defender who you're actually talking up this season, and that's Carlson. Otherwise, this whole season up until the last few weeks, Burns could do no wrong. Vlasic could do no wrong. Shimmick was great anytime he managed to hit somebody at a blue line instead of just missing them. And now they're talking about how all these injuries on defense is what's making our defense bad. It's like, no, our defense has been bad this whole season. And it's just Reimer was keeping us in games, and now we don't have Reimer, and now our defense is just as bad. And suddenly it's like, our depth is hurt. Our depth is keeping us back. We haven't had depth this season. We haven't been making depth this season.
You are absolutely right, but I want to point out that Hetty thinks that those depth defenders that are bad are actually good. So you need to remember that. They think Milosh is good. They think Magna is good. Or at least they've presented that those guys are good. So
I
delusional
think
or party line, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would be fair to say that the defense is worse, but with the injuries, but to your point, it wasn't particularly great to begin with.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about a percentage drop and not one, in my opinion, that would be the showstopper for this team. I mean, obviously losing Reimer, that to me pretty much says, at this point, again, I don't believe that you intentionally tank, especially not as a pro athlete, but I don't see what other strategy or what else the team could possibly play for with this goaltending tandem, with this defense, and with, forwards who, again, aren't generating anywhere near enough goals and not by enough players. Like at this point, the organization should absolutely stop the bullshit. Um, you know, we're close to the playoffs because to your point earlier, Ben, I don't know a single fan who has watched more than one game this season who could possibly just be so blindly optimistic that they still believe it. I mean, and listen, you can tell the announcers don't really buy into it either. They may talk like they do because of course, right? That's their job. But you get those sly little dry Randy lines every now and then, which is a little bit of a tip off. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, look, we are now the second we lost Reimer. I mean, I can't explain to people who don't understand how the sort of the roster building mechanics, right? The management side, the off season, the trade deadline, how that works. What a big deal losing Reimer is, because Reimer was one of those players where, I'm not saying we were going to get a lot for him because he probably would have been pulled up into a backup position on,
I'm not so sure about that, by the way.
But well,
I think there are contenders looking for somebody to solidify their goaltending, i.e., Toronto.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't know that. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know what else Reimer needs to do to show he can be a starter.
Well, I think that's part of the thing that sucks about Reimer's career is he's shown that plenty of times and just kind of gets the shaft with it, and he ends up being a really good backup goaltender for teams. But my point, Ben, is really more, that was one of those sure thing deals that was going to be there. The Sharks were out.
Right.
Sharks, I hope they would have, but even if they weren't considering it at that point in time, they absolutely could have gotten a return. And right now, when you look at what the Sharks need, they need returns. They need returns at the trade deadline. They need returns in the offseason. They need returns in the draft. Like, they got to rebuild this roster. And to have Reimer be hurt, I mean, if he's hurt through this deadline, which is, near the end of this month, that's a big blow to the Sharks, rebuilding.
I want to build on something Colin said for just a second, and something you're saying, which is tank or not, right? Well, the thing at this point is, and I think Colin is making this point, is the Sharks don't have any control over whether this is a tank or not anymore, right? Reimer is the person who is preventing it from being a full-on tank. The injuries, particularly to Karlsson, have prevented us from being able to not tank. So really it's about, and I think this is what you're saying, Alex, is about how you tank, right? Are you going to tank pretending you're going for the playoffs and, not get the benefit of playing youth, or are you going to engage in the tank and do the right thing and play the youth? And I think we all know that this team is going to do the dumb thing and play the old guys because they think they have to desperately try to make the playoffs, right? And that's how you do it. That's how you show you're doing it. And that's what sucks. That's what really sucks here. Just so fucking diluted.
I mean, look, I'm not a firm believer that we have enough depth or talent in the organization right now, and I'm still saying play those kids anyway, because quite frankly, it doesn't benefit anyone for them not to get the experience. It doesn't help their trade value. It doesn't help, their potential growth. If
it doesn't help you assess, right?
And nothing.
Look, let me make the point I've made all year. There are guys who need to grow. They need to be challenged. They need to be playing at the NHL level, and you need to assess their ability to play at the NHL level. And I think a perfect example of this is Ryan Merkley. Ryan Merkley plays a different game when he's bored down in the AHL, and he doesn't look as good. When he comes up, he's challenged, and he knows he can't do that dumb shit very much, right? So you get a different version of Ryan Merkley, and how you can't assess NHL Merkley in the AHL for that reason. So fucking play the kids and see which ones need to be, playing at this level.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I just don't see how this organization is evaluating anyone in talent, because like Merkley looks good on the puck when he gets the chance, but this team is also not playing any sort of system, so he's always scrambling. Like there's so many plays where he'll do a really good keep in on the blue line, but instead of having like an out pass, he has 3 teammates all around him clustered in the corner of the blue line. And it's like, oh, okay, make it really easy to get a counterattack. And then, Merkley will try to pass it out. It'll bounce off somebody's skate, and it's a counterattack. And then it's like, oh, what a terrible pass by Merkley. It's like, are you kidding me? What a complete lack of plan. What a complete lack of strategy. And the thing that hurts the most is looking at Hurdle's face in these last few games, because that does not look like a guy who is having fun always.
No,
that looks like a guy who wants to go somewhere else.
It keeps getting worse and worse. And I'll say this: here's my most frustrating thing as a fan right now, it's basically that I know they have to be to some extent, but to me, it just doesn't seem like they're doing an honest assessment of anything. In the same way, that when they went on their quote unquote coaching search, it just, public facing, it didn't feel like there was a genuine search. It felt like they already knew exactly who they were going to put in, regardless of what they actually needed at the time. And that's why we are where we are now. Yeah. It feels the same way when it comes to, assessing the youth, because, you're still playing, you're rolling out guys like, Nieto, or like, and I don't mean to pick on him specifically, but it's just like, I don't feel like they're honestly assessing the youth at all, or have honestly assessed them. And then, that feeling continues to get compounded by pulling, again, Staylock in, which low risk, cheap, I get it. But the fact that they went and they were like, who do we know? Versus maybe we should flip something and just try, because it seems to me that unless something radically changes this offseason, Hill's not going to be the guy. And they were hoping that he was going to be that sort of sneaky steal. He just wasn't getting enough starts, in Arizona, and they were going to have another. I know I kind of cringe to say Jones, but when Jones first came in, it was sort of a similar situation where he was slightly overlooked just because of the goaltending situation in Los Angeles before he was traded. A couple of teams keyed in on it. The Sharks managed, pull a swing to kind of bring him in. Hill, right now, he's not showing that yet. And right now, Reimer, who you were kind of hoping was going to be the tandem / backup while Hill developed, is looking like your bona fide, guy. So going back and grabbing Staylock to me is like, are you looking anywhere? Are you looking anywhere else? Or are you guys just constantly going to be looking backwards? Again, when we brought Nieto back, looking backwards. And it's just, it's maddening. Like even the contracts, right? Ben, which you talked about ad nauseum, right? Those are all make good contracts, which I partially respect the franchise for doing if that's how they got those discounts, even though, it isn't great. But I just feel like this organization can't move forward for stupid reasons. I don't know. That's my big vent rant. That's my big frustration right now. I just feel like the organization is too set on what they think they know to actually move forward.
Well, all I know is I'd rather have Josh Norris than Erik Karlsson.
Oh God, give me a fucking break.
Oh please,
hold
on. Hey, Con, you really want to screw with Ben right now? You should blame it all on the fact that Joe Pavelski left. Do that. He'll love it.
Mean, whatever happened to the cat? Because Pavelski left, and I heard about Pavelski at all. Marlowe? No, I'm just saying we had Pavelski, and we had the little kitty cat that they rescued named Pavelski. I'm just saying we crossed a black cat, and here we are.
The second you said whatever happened to the cat, I was like, Are you thinking that before they grabbed Staylock, they were looking at Felix Potvin? Because that guy retired a long time ago, Colin.
Let's face it, we could have put a poster of Felix Potvin up in our goal, and it probably would have stopped more shots.
You know what would have made me more excited than bringing Alex Staylock in? Giving Yager a chance, because that guy's still playing.
Oh.
And I know he's not a goaltender, but you know what? I would have bought a ticket to go watch that.
You know what? Put Kocher in goal. Just
at this point, why not? I mean, he's lost all of his teeth, right? I mean, what else? What else are you gonna to knock out of his mouth there? He's good at blocking pucks. We've talked about that too. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about these games real quick because there are 2 games this week. Not a very busy week for the Sharks. It must be because, unlike a lot of other teams, they weren't allowed to postpone their games for COVID. But the Sharks would take on the Golden Knights. Look, I don't think anyone really had super high expectations here. This is the game that Reimer would get hurt in, and that people would blame it on him having too many starts. Sharks would lose this game by a score of 3-1. I will say this. Here's my bright spot in this game. Noah Gregor got a goal.
Yay!
That guy tried. Like, listen, that guy legitimately tries.
The best part was it was on Nick Bonino's whiff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked about Noah Gregor before, and that guy tries really hard, does quite a few things right, and just the puck just doesn't go in the net. So anytime the puck does go in the net for him, I'm going to give him a nod of approval.
It was
great. What are you
great.
going to say, Ben?
No. I just said that it was on Bonino's whiff. That's all. I mean, I think that game looked like it was even a winnable game too, right up until the point that our season died on us.
I mean, that's literally that to me. That's a great point right there, Ben, because that is literally how I felt in that exact moment. I literally felt like I don't think we should be going for the playoffs. Do I think the Sharks can win a couple of games? Yeah. And then that injury occurred, and I immediately went, well, that's it. I don't even know if I'm going to watch the rest of the games this season. I will, because we pod and I love the Sharks. But
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
man,
Colin.
That game, it didn't feel winnable because again we got pounded, and I don't think it's the number of starts that did Reimer in. I think it's the fact that he's been facing like 40 shots a game, and the guys like a goalie. Yeah, goalies play the whole game, but in a like even game, the goalie has a lot of like rest between action. They watch the play, they make their save, play transitions. Except on the Sharks, the play transitions like to our blue line, then comes right back. And like poor Reimer, like he was working so hard, and
I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I think absolutely the dangerous shots he's taking, the moves he's got to make, absolutely increases the danger of an injury.
When I watched it, my reaction was, shit happens. Like I didn't look at it from the perspective of, don't get me wrong, like were we going with our continuous goaltender plan of running him into the ground? Yeah, absolutely. Did the Sharks really have another option? No, not really. And his play, it's not like I've watched his play dip from fatigue or exhaustion or anything like that. Guys go out and they get hurt sometimes. That's life. That's life. I'm not necessarily blaming that on the coaches for their choices as much as I think maybe some other fans are. But I don't know. Am I the only one that feels that way? Do you guys feel differently? I don't think it's great that they're going to run him into the ground, which they absolutely were going to do. But I don't necessarily feel like that's why he got injured.
Bogner even said after the game that it could have played a role. So if the coach is going to say it, then I think you have to, give some credence to the fact that the more guys are tired, the more they've played, the more they don't get recovery time, the more likely they are to get hurt. That is a thing. And it's not just goalies, right?
Yeah, but hold on a second.
We're constantly worried about how Brent Burns degrades across the season from playing too many minutes.
Wait. Okay. No. But here's the thing, right? Let's look at February. Sharks didn't play all that many games in February. They really didn't. Don't get me wrong. They did have a back-to-back, with Boston and Seattle. But it's not like this was the most crowded month of playing.
But there is a reason why teams rotate goalies more than the Sharks do.
Even
in situations like that. So
I'm not saying there isn't, but if the Sharks are but let me ask you this. if you are the San Jose Sharks, well, hold on. I have to rethink how to ask this question because I immediately know you're going to go the other way. But okay, let's say you're the Sharks. Let's say this is the roster that you have right now, okay? And let's say you do think that you are in a place to catch up to that last wild card spot. Let's admit whether you should or should not for a second, because the Sharks aren't going to just be like, we can, but we're not, right? You pretty much only have Reimer.
But yeah, you say that if you agree to be dumb and make dumb decisions, yes, which the Sharks are, right?
Well,
Yeah.
We're damning them for making dumb decisions, and then are we going to really like excuse them for making dumb decisions? Like,
no. My point, no. But I don't know. I don't. Sure, Bugner said that. He says a lot of shit right now, most of which is bullshit, and you know it too. Or he's really dumb, and if he's dumb, then he's dumb there.
He is really dumb.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't think he's the only one who thinks that wear and tear increases, the possibility for injuries.
No,
right?
I understand. I understand that, but what I'm saying is there are a lot of people who jumped on that immediately and said that is why he got injured, and I'm saying I don't necessarily think that is why he got injured.
I don't disagree.
Could it play a role? Yeah, but you know what? Players go out and tweak shit all the time. That is sports. Like it happens. It's not like he's playing literally every day. He's not. You know what I mean? So maybe not, but don't just make the immediate assumption that that's exactly what happened either, because I think that's crap. And I think the only reason that Booner even said that was because he was asked, because of course someone's going to ask that question.
Well, okay. Then fine. I am 100% on board with the line that the hockey gods are just trying to convince our organization to tank. Like the hockey gods are just like, okay, we're gonna take Carlson out. They'll get it now. Oh, okay, we're gonna take some other guys out. They're definitely gonna get it now. Well, okay. I'm sorry, Reimer. We told you this was gonna be your year, but your team just doesn't seem to get it. We wanted you to be traded to a contender, but the Sharks need the message, so you got to go.
Are you trying to tell me, Colin, that somewhere up there's a god who's going, take a hint?
Yes.
Take the hint.
Hockey gods are real, man.
I agree. That's why I think it's so funny that the Sharks continue to try to paddle upstream. Yeah. Like, all right. I guess so.
I mean, the only thing I love about this season is constantly sending Alex and Ben screen caps of Vlasic failing as a goal gets scored on us.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't even been our worst defender. Damn it!
I'd buy that guy out. Is all I'm gonna say.
Yes.
Listen, we play the Predators too, and you want to talk about some really bad defense? Woo!
Well, no. I need to say I woke up. I checked the score, and all season long, I'm like, oh, it's a losing game. You know what? I got to watch it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to see where this went downhill. I saw the 8-0 scoreline, and I honestly thought maybe I give this one a miss. Maybe I just don't watch this.
I mean, this was seriously a low point, and you can see it in the fans' reactions. In fact, actually, my nephew Jack came over after the game to sleep over and hang out with his cousins. And he came back in and he had footage. There was a brawl in the stands in the San Jose Arena, which is not something you typically see in the San Jose Arena. And that just goes to show you how incredibly frustrating an experience this was for everyone. The Sharks went ahead and, as mentioned, started Staylock. I'm going to say it again. Listen, I thought the defense played crap in front of him. I did not think he looked good at all. Sharks would lose this by a score of 8-0. And there were points where, I mean, again, it's not just because the score was 8-0. There were entire sections where you could just tell the Sharks had no idea where the puck was. The Sharks had no idea what they were doing. And it was just hard to watch. There are losses where you feel like the team is giving it their all and, the other team's just better. Or it's just not going their way. This is the game where the Sharks just looked bad.
And I think it was
they are bad.
Yeah, they are bad. And I think it was the second or the third goal where both Shimmick and Merkley went behind our net to try to stop the play, leaving the front totally open. And Hurdle was the one trying to stop the shot. And there's just they just went to his face after the goal, and I'm like, he's not signing here. Like
No.
that was the play that I'm just like, nope, this is it.
I fucking told you guys. I don't understand why he would come back here. You didn't need to see an 8-0 game for that to be clear.
I did. I gotta be honest. I did. Because listen, again, I've been saying it before. He knows what this team is. He knows what the potential direction. So if he's going to sign in the first place, if he's still having negotiations at this point, it means that he's still considering it. Or, yeah, sure, he could be using it, as leverage, but that's a long time to wait, and he's going to get money anyway. So I don't necessarily think that's what he's doing. I think he has or had a genuine desire to try and stay here, and again, I think the Sharks need to present to him what that plan would be, and I'm sure that's part of what those negotiations were about. But then last night occurred, and again, this to me, this is the worst looking I think I've seen the Sharks this entire season, and it just keeps going downhill. So I think for me, maybe I view this a little bit more as a maybe straw that broke the camel's back. But who knows? You never know what a player really values at the end of the day. He may want to stay here and try to lead this team. He may want to stay here because he's comfortable. I don't think he should. I think the Sharks need him to.
Yeah.
But I mean, with the way that this looked, and again, you can look at this game to be fair, I guess, and play devil's advocate a little bit. You can look at this game and you can say, guys, we got a lot of people injured. True, we do. But still, like, the team still has to put together a competent game. I mean, you've got how many contracts the Sharks have in general right now? I think they're like 49, right, or whatever. Yeah. They have plenty of players, is my point. And if those players cannot play, you got a real problem.
Yeah, we have a real problem.
Yeah,
we have a whole series of real problems.
Which is your favorite problem?
Bob Boughner.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
That is a great question.
Yeah, Boughner is. I mean, a better coaching staff could probably do better with this team, but this team is still not a playoff team, no matter how good the coach is.
But you know what? Step one for the Sharks, for me, step one is moving on from this coaching staff.
Yep.
That is step one. I don't care who you bring in. If you haven't made that as your first move, you are making a huge mistake. And listen, Boughner might be the right guy for a different team in a different situation.
He's not.
But he's not. But I'm just saying, could be, but he's definitely not the right guy for here, for now, or for the future. And I think what drives me nuts is there are a lot of fans who are still saying, coaching change, blah, blah. Now, listen, I've said that about GM changes, but there's a significant difference between a general manager and a coach. Those are different roles. They do different things. You can fire a general manager, and if you don't have a better general manager lined up, there's a lot of really bad general managers in the NHL. The NHL likes to recycle them over and over again, right? It's like a nepotism league, essentially. Yeah. But for coaching, you can't tell me at this point, you can look at that roster and you can go, well, this is a bad roster. What do you expect? I expect better coaching with that crappy roster, because the coaching with this roster isn't particularly good. And I don't know whether or not that is because the organization is really the one in control and pushing him to do that, which to me is still not good, or whether it's him and he's just not capable, or he's bought into whatever the organization's bought into 100%.
He's at odds with the organization. He always has been.
I mean, I think for me, this, again, we've talked about fresh set of eyes. That's important. But, you hear people go, well, the next coach could be worse. What is worse? Like, legitimately, this team sucks right now. They're bad. They're bad, guys. Like, they're bad.
And straight up, like, look at Montreal. Sure, like, they're slightly better roster-wise-ish. But their irate French fans were just like, this is unacceptable. New coach comes in. Things seem better. Now the question is, why did Montreal change their coach earlier?
Well, look, you got a coach here who, again, maybe it's your organization really pulling the strings there. I don't know. But you have a coach who's literally continuing to try to squish square pegs into round holes. Like, there are guys on this active roster who have not earned those spots.
I think it's
in terms of
optimistic that
keeping
you think he has pegs at all. Like
I
think he just walks up, like shrugs a couple times, mumbles something, and then hockey happens.
I just feel like I have not seen any attempt at meaningful adjustments. And again, that's another one of those things that makes me pull my hair out. Is I look at this roster, and I don't think it's performing to where it ought to. Even with the injuries, I don't. But the fact that it can't, and the fact that it continues to try to do whatever it's trying to do without really making any meaningful shifts or changes is just baffling. Like, it's not working, guys. It's just not working. At some point, you have to look at it and go, this strategy isn't working. I would much rather have a coach who can admit that and try to fix it and move on than what I feel like I'm getting now, which is not that. That's my 2 cents.
Truculence. Intensity.
Yeah, like just that, like, we start 2 fights at the end of an 8-0 game, like, and the commentary of like showing the coach you're still in the game. It's like, motherfucker, we haven't been in this game since the puck drop. And I felt so bad that they had the Paralympic hockey player drop the puck. Like, I saw that kid out there dropping the puck. I'm like, oh, buddy, if you only knew what the score was going to be.
Do you know
I bet you kept that puck too.
Do you know how you show the coach and fans that you're still in the game? You play the fucking game.
Yeah.
Like, you get in position and focus on at least the fundamentals. Again, like we've talked about this before, this is the thing that Trotz does so well. It's not that Trotz is like a strategic genius. He doesn't have amazing tactics. All he does, and this has been in interviews forever, he goes to franchises and he goes, hey guys, focus on doing all the little things correctly and the rest will come together. And like the Sharks right now, boy, you watch some of those goals in that Nashville game, I could not figure out what the defense or the forwards were doing. You had forwards behind the defense, in front of Staylock at points. Staylock had no idea where the puck was half the time. The players didn't know where the puck was. And I get it. It's small and it bounces. I've played hockey not that many times at that pro level. Should you look baffled at where the play is occurring? I mean, it's just it's maddening that we haven't accepted, to Colin, your point, whatever the higher powers want from us, and haven't started to shift gears to figure out how to fix it. And that's the problem. I'm sure they're probably doing that to an extent behind the scenes, but you want to talk about getting fans back and butts and seats. Don't treat us stupid.
Don't insult our intelligence.
That's the thing. Like, listen, I understand PR. I mean, I've worked in marketing and advertising for a long time. Like, I get it. You typically don't want to come out and say everything sucks, but sometimes it's okay to. Sometimes, even if you're not going to say that, to at least show it on the ice that you are making those shifts, to start pulling some of those players up, which again, I don't think they're NHL caliber, but you know what? I know the guys we have up here right now aren't getting the job done. And so to me, it should be too bad.
I disagree in one sense, and I think we've seen this. Scott Reedy is NHL caliber, and he should have been playing longer than he has been, right?
Yeah.
So
no,
I don't.
And
there are
Ryan
a couple
Merkley,
guys.
I would say as well. Ryan Merkley, I would say as well, should be up doing more. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I don't expect the entire AHL team to come up and be massively successful. That's also not what I'm asking for. What I'm asking for is, hey, those guys that aren't getting it done, maybe they're in a slump. It could be that they're in a slump. Fine, but you know what? Get them out for a break and pop someone else in and also challenge them to earn their spot back.
Like you said, Nieto. Like, there's no reason for Matt Nieto to be playing games right now. In fact, if you can find somebody to give you a 7th round pick for him, fucking get him out of here.
So I'm also against the whole like slump thing, because to me the difference between being in a slump and being shit is the slumping player puts shots on net. Like, the slumping player puts shots towards the goal. It's like, oh, that's a miss. Oh, he didn't find the net. Oh, he couldn't put it on goal. Oh, it got blocked. Oh, he's just couldn't quite make connection. It's like, no, we're not even generating shots. Like, I'm wondering if the other team goalie is like, hey guys, I'm going to go hit the gym because that game was kind of boring.
It just seems like everyone in the league and everyone watching knows what this current starting roster is except for the team itself. And it is just, it's frustrating. Hey, guys, not a lot of positivity this week, but we do got to pick some stars here. Some 3 stars. I'll go first. Ready? My star number 1. My third star. I actually don't have a third star. I might have to cheat here and not give a third star. My second star is going to go to my nephew Jack for bringing me footage of a brawl at a Sharks game because I didn't think I would see that, but also I didn't catch that part on TV. So at least I had something to talk about this podcast. And of course, my first star, I'm going to give it to Noah Gregor because, well, he's the one guy that scored this week, and also because, I'm one of those guys that still likes Noah Gregor, and I want to see him score. And I feel like the second he can start scoring, he's going to get everyone who's hating on him. If he can get that scoring touch going, you're gonna feel stupid. Colin, you go.
All right, I think I'm like 2 weeks late on this, but whatever. I've got nothing else to point to. So my third star is going to Terry Smith because I love the Sharks jerseys.
Terry Smith, by the way, nicest guy. So awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a
I
great
haven't
dude.
met him, but he seems cool.
He came into EAP a few times. He was a friend of John Horsley, so we got to talk to him about stuff.
Yeah,
cool.
I geeked out and he took it. Go ahead, Colin.
My second star is going to whichever team gives us a second round pick for Hurdle.
A second round?
Yeah. Well, I would hope you get a little more than a single second round pick out of that one, but all right.
Hey, I'm just trying to be a Sharks realist here.
Folks, this is why we don't play Fantasy GM on this podcast.
And my first star. Fuck, I don't think anyone gets a first star. Reedy and Gregor can get first stars just because, hopefully they get a lot of games next season to show us what they got.
I'm gonna flip.
Bob Bogner's the coach.
I'm gonna flip around and actually give a third star after all, because I know it is a cliche meme and it's exhausted, but whoever made and posted the bat flex smoking the cigarette outside of all the Sharks sweaters, I would have accepted the black ones because of course they can't seem to win in those. But they chose the retro rewind, which I don't know why. Just makes it even sadder to me. Ben, yours.
I am boycotting the 3 stars until Russia leaves Ukraine.
I'm going to say that's fair. I typically would not let you get away with getting out of the 3 stars, but I think that is a just one. Listen, the San Jose Sharks standing-wise, why am I even telling you this? They are second to last in the Pacific Division. They've got 54 points. Behind them is Seattle at 39. Don't worry, they won't catch up. And above them is Anaheim with 61. The Sharks' goal differential, by the way, is negative 33. So I wouldn't expect them to come storming back up the standings. But you never know. Noah Gregor could light fire. We've got games today. Today it's a Sunday. It's its second game on this back-to-back in Anaheim. They then play Los Angeles on Thursday, and they play the Kings again up here on Saturday. So some Pacific Division. If you missed the Pacific Division in the first half of the season, let me just tell you, I wish they had spread that out a little bit more, because there's nothing worse than having humiliating losses in division. In division never feels good, people. That pretty much concludes this week of Sharks hockey. Hoping for better, but not holding our breath. You can check us out on the web at circlingthecup.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple's podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. Android people, figure it out, or go to Spotify, unless you're I think in Russia. I don't think you can get Spotify there, but everyone else, there you go. Spotify is the way to go. You can check us Ben
it's me
on Twitter at Circling the Cup. You can check us out on Facebook, where we pretty much just let you know when we're potting live at facebook.com/Circling the Cup. And of course, hey, write in, folks. We need topics to talk about, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of news going on. I think the next real news date for us is probably going to be the trade deadline, if the Sharks have a tradable asset by the time that rolls around. But otherwise, let's make the rest of the season about your questions. So write them in. that'll give us something to talk about other than how awful this team is. Guys, that concludes a very depressing podcast. Say bye-bye.
Rest in peace, James Reimer. Or pieces, as the case may be.
I love the long side there, Colin.
Just trade them all. Just trade everyone over the age of 28 and just trade them all.
Bye-bye.
Kind of a good luck there.
Yeah, there you go. Dunzo.
All right.
Yeah, that was fun. I was all peppy this Sunday morning, and now I want to go blow my brains out. Anyway,
You mean play more Marvel?
Yes.
yeah, man. I have our house is all this thing. Oh, did I tell you I restored a bubble hockey table?
Yeah, you told me.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, you mentioned it.
So awesome. The kids were playing it this morning. I had to kick them out through the podcast, and like I was just eating breakfast, and from the garage, you could hear the national anthem play every 5 minutes because the new game had started. That is the highlight of my
I'm actually
Sunday.
pretty jealous of that table. Come to think of it, but that's fine. I've got a board game table coming, so.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this: keep your eye on Craigslist for a used one if you're lucky out here on the West Coast, because they don't exist. Because buying them new is ridiculous. You might as well buy a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, you buy a broken when you fix it. That's the way you do it. All right, guys. Well, have a good rest of the day.
Yeah. Enjoy the results of your whiskey sours, Colin.
Yeah.